You say you're fine, that you found stability, but deep down something feels off. You wake up tired, end the day empty, and keep repeating, everything's under control. But let me ask you this. Are you truly at peace? Or have you just learned to live with fear? Because what you call stability might just be well-dressed panic. Fear of change, fear of failure, fear of becoming no one. And the worst part, that fear wears a suit, pays bills, and calls itself being an adult. But deep down, you know something has to move, and it's not the world, it's you. You call it comfort, a steady paycheck, a routine that doesn't hurt, dinner on the table, bills paid, a quiet kind of peace at the end of the day. But look a little closer. That comfort might just be fear, dressed up in grown-up clothes, because real comfort isn't safety. It's anesthesia. And the longer you live anesthetized, the less you feel, the less you move, the less you live. You're not at peace. You've just become really good at avoiding discomfort. But there's a cost too. A cost no one talks about. Every time you choose predictable over purposeful, you trade your soul for a false sense of control. You become efficient, but invisible, functional, but forgettable. And the world doesn't reward function. It rewards presence, power, movement. The most dangerous thing about this so-called stability, it feels okay. It looks responsible, but it slowly kills your fire. Without pain, without noise, without resistance. You notice it when the days blur into each other, when your conversations lose depth, when your dreams start sounding too polite. So let me offer you a challenge. Take a piece of paper. Write down everything in your life that you call stable. Your job, your relationship, your habits. Now, next to each one, write the real cost. What is it stealing from you? Time, energy, creativity, fire? Then ask, if I wasn't afraid, what would I be doing instead? You might realize that stability is just a disguise, a story you tell yourself to avoid the edge. But here's the truth. You're not staying because it's right. You're staying because you're scared. Scared to leap, scared to lose, scared to be nobody, and that's okay. Fear is human, but calling it peace, that's the lie. A Stoic doesn't chase pain, but he doesn't run from it either. He uses it. He sharpens himself through it, because discomfort, when chosen with intention, becomes transformation. So here's your micro challenge. Pick one thing in your life that feels comfortable. Just one. Ask yourself, am I here out of choice or out of fear? Write the answer. Be honest. Be brutal, because only when you name the fear can you reclaim your power. That's when you can choose with clarity, to stay with purpose, or to move with courage. But don't confuse the two. Fear, when disguised as maturity, becomes your silent jailer. And if you keep hiding behind responsibility, you'll end up living a life that looks fine on the outside and feels like failure on the inside. Next chapter, we face the fear directly. We break it down. We use it as fuel. But first, do the inventory. Look at your so-called stability and ask yourself, is this really sustaining me or just keeping me quiet? Let's get honest. Fear isn't the problem. Your problem is the way you respond to it. You avoid it, you rationalize it, you dress it up in logic and call it being realistic. But the Stoics saw it differently. To them, fear wasn't something to run from. It was a signal, a flare in the dark, showing you exactly where your next step should be. You feel afraid. Good. It means you're getting close to something that matters. Fear is the body's way of saying, this direction matters. Pay attention. But you've been taught to turn around, to back off, to wait until the fear goes away. It won't. Real growth doesn't come when you feel ready. It comes when you decide to move, even while afraid, because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act in spite of it. Think about that thing you've been avoiding. The conversation, the career move, the honest decision. You're not unsure. You're just afraid of the cost. But here's the irony. The longer you wait, the more you pay. You lose time, you lose self-respect, you lose your edge. So let's reframe. What if fear isn't a wall, but a compass? What if everything you want lives just beyond the fear? The Stoics practiced what they called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of loss. They visualized what could go wrong, not to avoid it, but to prepare for it. They stared fear in the face, calmly daily, until it lost its power. You can do the same. Here's how. Pick one decision that's been haunting you. Now, imagine 3 versions of what happens if you move. Worst case, you fail, you lose money, you embarrass yourself, you feel pain. Realistic case, you struggle, learn, adjust, grow. Best case, you break through, you gain ground, you respect yourself again. Now, breathe, feel all 3, and ask, which pain am I more willing to live with? The pain of trying or the pain of staying stuck? Because either way, there will be pain. But only one of them leads to life. You don't need to eliminate fear. You need to learn how to carry it without letting it drive. So here's your practice. Every morning this week, write down one thing that makes you feel fear, small or big. Doesn't matter. Then next to it, write what kind of man you'd become if you did it anyway. Let that image burn into your mind. Because that man, that version of you, is waiting on the other side of fear, and he's not louder, he's just braver. Let's talk about the price you've been paying, quietly, slowly, daily, not in dollars, not in time, in soul. Because staying still isn't free, it's expensive, and the cost is your fire. Every time you say not now, a part of you shrinks. Every time you postpone that leap, that conversation, that move, something inside you goes dim, and you tell yourself it's temporary, that you're just waiting for the right moment, the right sign, the perfect alignment. But let's be honest, how many years have you been almost ready? How many times have you watched others move while you stayed behind, convincing yourself that your moment is just around the corner? What you're calling patience is actually fear dressed as strategy. What you're calling wisdom might just be well-worded hesitation, and the years don't care. They pass anyway. You age, you settle, you adapt. And one day you wake up numb, wondering how you got so good at surviving and so bad at living. The cost of staying still is not just regret. It's erosion of clarity, of character, of command. Because when you stop moving, you stop deciding. And when you stop deciding, you stop leading. And when you stop leading, life leads you. So here's the truth. That dream you keep putting off, it doesn't just sit there. It dies a little every day, not loudly, not dramatically, but silently, in the space between who you are and who you were supposed to become, and maybe no one else sees it. Maybe to the world, you look fine, stable, responsible, mature, but you know that you traded your edge for safety, your roar for silence, your purpose for predictability, and maybe it's not too late, but that window is closing. And the longer you wait, the harder it gets to remember what full power even feels like. So ask yourself, is the life I'm living today worthy of who I could be? Does my routine reflect my real values or just my fears? Am I building or just maintaining? You weren't born to maintain, you were born to move, to lead, to rise. So here's your challenge. Identify one area where you've gone still. Just one. Then decide, not hope, not wish, not maybe someday. Decide what your next move is, write it, own it, name the date, and then act. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, just fully. Because momentum isn't built through genius. It's built through motion, even messy motion. The only thing more dangerous than fear is stillness. Stillness that becomes normal. Stillness that becomes safe. Stillness that becomes your life. You are not here to be still. You are here to burn, and in the next chapter we'll rebuild the structure around that fire, so you can rise with clarity, presence, and strategy. But for now, move. Any direction, just not nowhere. You felt the discomfort. You've looked fear in the eye. You've named the cost of staying still. Now it's time to build. Not based on emotion, not based on motivation, but based on command. Because moods fade, but movements last. This is where most men fall. They wait to feel like it. They wait for inspiration, for energy, for alignment. But the man who leads his life doesn't wait. He structures. Discipline isn't punishment. It's scaffolding. It's the invisible architecture that protects your potential from your weakness. And yes, you have weaknesses. So do I. So does every man who ever tried to rise. The difference is, those who build systems survive the storms. So let's get tactical. Pick one area where you've been floating. Work, health, focus, presence, anything. Now build a container, a structure that demands your return, whether you're motivated or not. That might be a non-negotiable wake-up time, a weekly check-in with someone who holds you accountable, a daily session of hard, focused work, no matter what. Not because you feel like it, but because your future self deserves it. The Stoics didn't worship discipline for its own sake. They used it as a weapon, a filter, a mirror, to see what was real and to eliminate what was soft. And right now, softness is your enemy. Soft mornings, soft language, soft standards. You don't fix that with hype. You fix it with rhythm. Rhythm that survives bad days. Rhythm that aligns with your values, not your vibes. Because when the mood fades, and it will, what stays is what you've built. Here's your challenge. Take the movement you started back in chapter 3 and wrap it in rhythm. Decide when, Will I do this? How often? What are the rules I will follow even when no one's watching? Then write it down. Make it visible. Make it sacred. And one more thing. Track it. Measure your motion. Not to punish yourself, but to remind yourself, I am a man who moves. I am a man who builds. Because your fire is not enough. You need fuel. You need focus. You need form. That's what this chapter is. The form around the fire. No more drifting. No more depending on energy. No more being led by how you feel. From here on, you build a life that runs on clarity, not chaos. And in the final chapter, we bring all of this together, and you answer the hardest question of all, if not now, then when? You've seen the pattern, you called it stability, but it was fear. You stayed still, and it cost you something deep. You faced the fear, you measured the cost, you started to move, you built rhythm around that motion. Now comes the question that ends all excuses, that silences all justifications, that cuts through delay like a blade. If not now, then when? When will you stop rehearsing the man you could be and actually become him? When will you stop negotiating with your fire and finally let it lead? Because here's the brutal truth, there is no right time. Only time, and every moment you wait, someone else is moving, someone else is building, someone else is rising. Not because he's better than you, but because he stopped waiting. The future you're waiting for, it doesn't exist. It's a mirage. It's a place you'll never reach unless you choose to step now. And yes, stepping comes with risk. You might fail, you might lose, you might fall hard, but here's the question that matters more. What do you lose by not moving? You lose presence, you lose momentum, you lose years of power that will never return, and you don't notice it at first, because nothing explodes, nothing collapses, but quietly, you start disappearing. From your edge, from your mission, from yourself. You wake up a few years from now with the same fears, the same stories, the same life, and you wonder, what happened? I'll tell you what happened. You waited. You postponed action in the name of logic. You traded clarity for comfort. And you mistook motionless living for maturity, but not anymore. This is your line in the sand. This is the pivot point. You don't need more time. You need more truth. You don't need more advice. You need more decisions. So here it is, one decision right now. Name the thing, the one move you've avoided, the one step that would shift everything. Even if slightly. Now write it, say it, own it, and then move. Don't wait for fear to disappear, take it with you. Don't wait for certainty. Use uncertainty as your fuel, because your power doesn't come from knowing. It comes from doing. This is your moment to burn cleaner, to rise sharper, to lead quieter and deeper. No more waiting, no more almost, no more one day, if not now and when.